What's going on, guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of Owl Weekly, brought to you by Nerdwide.com. I'm your host, JT, followed by my co-host and Nerdwide founder, Tyler Haines.
Hey, everybody, welcome.
All right, so what we're going to talk about on these episodes is pretty much everything Overwatch League, which is the professional esports organization for Overwatch the game. It was started by Blizzard Entertainment. This season will be the first season of the league.
The good old inaugural.
And we're going to have 12 teams this year, and each team paid $20 million to get in on this league. So this league is
didn't even know
looking
that
like
was
some serious money.
Really? I had no idea. I didn't know they had to pay to get into it.
Yeah, it was. That's what got me interested, was because if you're having to spend that kind of money to get into a professional esports league, you know that the league is going to be good, and that like Blizzard's not just going to not let it be successful. That's too much money to be getting involved into a game. We're not talking about buying a League of Legends team for a couple $1 million.
I mean, that makes sense with a lot of these owners that we have for some of these teams.
Yeah, like I know we've got some that are like the Patriots owner. He's got a team, and then I know for a fact that the Outlaws is co-owned by the same one of the guys that co-owns the Rangers, I believe.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
All right, so what we're gonna do here is now we're gonna kind of just go into the 12 teams we've got. Since we're really in preseason. The season starts this week.
Yep.
All right, and the 12 teams are split up 6 and 6 in two divisions. We've got a Pacific division and an Atlantic division. We're going to start with the Pacific division first. In the Pacific division, we have LA Valiant, the Dallas Fuel, the LA Gladiators, the San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, and the Shanghai Dragons. And then in the Atlantic division, we have Boston Uprising, Florida Mayhem, the Houston Outlaws, the London Spitfire, New York Excelsior, and the Philadelphia Fusion. Now, we can already see where some rivalries are going to immediately kind of match up. I mean, you got two LA teams.
Yeah.
You got also a San Francisco team in there, so you got really 3 California teams. You've got 2 Asian teams. The Asian market is notoriously for their rivalries.
Yep. I can see like big games coming out of that one.
Yes, and then you got Houston and Dallas, which Houston and Dallas both are owned by Optic Gaming and Envious, which is a rival in Call of Duty. So I mean, it's a rivalry that's already been in the making.
Now, so LA Valiant? They're my favorite team as far as specific, and probably my you know how like everyone's got like their number 1 teams and like their second team they mainly support.
Yeah.
So I know LA Valiant's going to be my first team, and then Boston Uprising my second, even though they are owned by the Patriots owner. But those are my 2 teams I picked. I know Valiant is owned by Immortals, and a lot of the roster are from already Immortal players. So I'm sure that's going to play a part into it, because aren't they like Envious, Immortals, Optic, Cloud9? A lot of these people have already been in the esports divisions, like in other games, And I'm excited to see how their Overwatch teams are going to play out this season, especially since I just found out that the 20 million buy-in.
Yeah, I mean there's some teams that got in. As far as I'm honestly surprised to see that FaZe didn't try to jump in. I don't know if maybe they had an issue getting funding. I know a lot of these professional esports organizations had to go out and find funding outside of their teams, because no esports has that kind of money just on hand.
Right.
So, but it's surprising that we don't have some of these other big name esports jumping in. I don't know if they purposely wanted to hold it to 12 for the inaugural season, and we'll see maybe an expansion later on, or if that's just all they could get.
I wonder at the end of this season, because isn't it at the very end of this, what's the prize money? Is it $1 million?
The winning team at the end, the world champion, gets $1 million, and then
That's
second
just for one
place.
player.
No, that's for the one
The
team.
one team, okay.
Yeah. So obviously, you can if you have less team members, obviously you're going to make more money. But having more team members also helps you be able to play the strength and weaknesses of the other.
Rotate
Yeah.
people out. And now, and I thought something that was really interesting about this one, and I don't know if like other esports organizations as far as like the games and competitive scene, but for Owl, they're all of their players, they have to sign a contract, and like they get salary $50,000, and they get insurance, they get benefits. And I thought that was one of the coolest things. I don't know if like Optic, for instance, they do that for their CWL teams.
Yeah, that's most professional gamers that are in these major teams that even are getting salaries, and I mean they're not getting not paid.
I was assuming like they get paid off of royalties and stuff like that.
No. They all get some form of a salary. I mean, obviously,
Awesome.
you're gonna make more or less depending on how popular the team is, because they how the teams get paid, based off of sponsorships and merch sales. So the more popular teams in this case have more money to spend. It's almost kind of like baseball. The bigger market teams are going to have more money to throw around. I didn't see anything. I don't know if there's any kind of salary cap or any. I know there's a minimum of 50,000, but I don't know if we're going to ever see any caps. I don't think we'll ever see any like crazy contracts in esports for a while. You're not going to see players making $5 or $6 million a year.
No, at least not in this North American market. Like I know the esports is bigger, like over in South Korea and China and stuff like that. It's not as big as it is here. Well, I mean, we're not as big as they are overseas and stuff. But I'm curious to see how this league goes. Especially like you said earlier, we've got 3 different Asian teams. I wonder if that's going to help bring a fan base over to our esports in this league, or what it's going to take for esports to basically take off in America, because it's just not. I mean, I know with the cable company TBS starting to stream stuff, other than Twitch streaming things, I want more publicity towards esports, and I wonder if this will do it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering when ESPN is going to start doing some things. They've got their ESPN esports, but you don't really hear about ESPN doing anything with tournaments or anything. They don't.
Right. Or like they don't even have their own. ESPN's got so many channels, period. And you'd think I'm sure it's only going to be like a year or two until we see an ESPN esports channel dedicated to esports,
Yeah, that or at least a show. I could see ESPN doing a show like how they have their baseball show and they've got their various just football focused shows on top of their. I could see them maybe starting out with an esports show, and then as it gets more popular, maybe jumping into a whole channel. But we'll just have to see. It's looking up. I mean,
yeah,
you've got
especially
12
with
teams.
the $20 million buy-in. You better believe that a lot of these people are going to advertise.
Yeah, you've got teams that are willing to pay some good money to get into a league, and you've got mainstream people getting into ownership. Like Robert Kraft, is that his name, that owns the Patriots? He's obviously in. The team that actually owns the group that owns the Raiders is in. Also, they own the Gladiators, I think, or the Rams. They own the Rams. I'm sorry.
And then like you've got the CEO of the Mets. The New York Mets own New York Excelsior.
Yeah, and then Comcast. Did I see that right? That Comcast actually is the team that owns Philadelphia.
Yep.
That's insane. Like, this league has to take off. I don't see how this league doesn't take off.
And what's funny to me is like we've got preseason standings here on our because preseason was what like in November, I believe, October, when they actually did some preseason games and tested out a lot of the things they're doing, and there were only 3 teams that were undefeated, and that's Soul Dynasty, Dallas Fuel, and LA Valiant, but Speaking of Philadelphia, they didn't even show up for preseason. And I've got the official Twitter statement they put out, and I'll read that for you real quick. We could talk about it. But they tweeted, due to player logistic issues, the Fusion will be absent from all preseason matches. Preparations for the regular season remain on track as our players and coaches from 10 nations continue to scrimmage and work hard. We apologize to our fans in Philadelphia and around the world who are looking forward to see our preseason competition. Please stay tuned for new surrounding opportunities to connect with our team and win Fusion gear in advance of the season opener on January 11th. Now, what this tells me was they didn't have everybody ready. I don't know if it was, like they said, they had players and coaches from 10 nations, but I just felt like you had to show up for the very first preseason. To me, that makes me think like, well, these people or players aren't taking this seriously.
Well, I don't know that you could say that. You're got people coming in from 10 countries. You got to get visas for almost all of them.
Yeah, I didn't even think about visas. That's true.
Yeah, and the U.S. government is notorious for working slow, and I'm pretty sure the U.S. government is who has to okay the visas and everything. Yeah. And plus, we don't know where they're coming from either. Some of them could have got caught up with the travel bans and all that was going on at the time. So, but it looks like they're on track. And I don't think these preseason matches really mean anything anyways. You had teams flying in the week of, like you had both Shanghai and Seoul coming in like the same week. How are they going to be able to fly in and deal with jet lag and then perform right away, But that does bring us into another thing. What's cool about this league is every match is live, so there's going to be no online play at all. They're all live and on LAN.
So that's and like even watching the preseason, the way they had it set up, and I know you've got in here like the new camera angle, and I didn't really notice that much because I didn't watch OWL in the past or like any sort of Overwatch streaming. Like I played it, familiar with the stuff, but it was just amazing to see this game go to this lengths and basically make up their own new esport and come into this scene. Yeah. I love it. I love what of course, follow all these teams on Twitter, which is where they're mainly at, and watching them all these teams come together, interact with each other, and seeing I don't want to say so much a shade being thrown between the Twitters and stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, the trash talk is hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and these are... And from what I understand, a lot of these players, I don't think there's anybody over the age of 23. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure you had to be 18 to play in this league. Yeah. And I think any esports, the majority of you're in your gaming prime from age, I think it's 17 to 20 or 21. I read that somewhere a long time ago. So these are a little bit younger than us. I'm 24, and you're 24 as well, right? Or you're 25?
I'm 25. I'll be 26 this year.
Right. So we're a little bit older, but not too bad. So I'm curious to see how these kids evolve and see where they go. And that brings me to a question: who do you think? I know we mentioned my favorite teams. Who are your teams, and who do you think is? What's your prediction for the winning two teams? Who's going to go against each other for the championship?
Well, I'm pretty much solely cheering for Houston.
Right.
And that is until Nashville ever decides to get into this league.
Dude.
If we ever put a team together.
Right.
But I'm pretty much only for Houston, and I'm just kind of carrying over from Optic. I was an Optic fan in all their other esports, so I just figured I'd hop on with the Houston bandwagon also.
Yeah, I went off of names, colors, and logos.
Cool. So you went the 6-year-old route.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, but I gotta say I'm thinking this year it's gonna come down to Seoul. It'll be probably the winner. They seem pretty dominant. The South Korea looked super dominant in the world. What'd they call it? The World Cup? Is that what they called it? Yeah, and then I've got to say maybe Dallas. I think Dallas looked pretty good. I would go with them too.
Well, of course, I want to say LA Valiant and Seoul going against each other, which Well, never mind. They couldn't do that because they're different. I mean, they're in the same division, so they couldn't. Oh, are they going to do that like football? Like you can't, like the championship can't be between the two teams in the same division.
I really don't know. I was just thinking about that, and I tried to look for some clarification on that, and I couldn't find it. So
Well, I'm sure as we get further and further on in these episodes and everything, we'll find out more information when it comes to it. And like speaking of rankings, I saw ESPN Esports tweeted out earlier their list of week 0 power rankings, and we'll just do top 3 real fast. Seoul Dynasty number 1, London Spitfire number 2, and New York Excelsior is in 3rd place as far as their rankings. Oh, excuse me, rankings go. And I haven't heard a whole bunch from London Spitfire, and they went 1-1 in the preseason standings. Again, that doesn't mean anything.
yeah, and so did New York Excelsior went 1-1.
Right.
And
So I mean, it's
I don't. That's what's leading me to believe. I don't think these preseason matches really mattered.
No.
I think they were more just kind of tune up, just kind of bring some hype to the league that's coming up. Not so much like preseason football where you kind of get an idea of what the teams are going to look like. These matches right here, they didn't mean anything.
yeah, it was just kind of probably make sure all their LAN connections are working well, make sure they had the flow of what they wanted to do right.
Yep.
Let's see.
So
What? Go ahead.
So let's talk about how this is going to play out, though, because like we said, it's all going to be on land, and then all these teams are obviously they're going to be living in LA, and then all the matches are going to be played at Blizzard Studios in LA this year.
So
and then while this is going on, all of these teams, you've got LA, Dallas, San Francisco. All of these teams are going to be building their own studios in their cities, and I think starting the 2019 season, you're going to have a home and away games, almost like football and baseball.
Dude, that's just gonna be so much fun. I can't wait to see where this. Again, I feel like this is going to be the one esport in at least America where it's going to take off.
Yeah, because it's so much more like traditional sports now. You've got teams that have names that you can remember, like you've got Boston Uprising, Shanghai. You've got
and like they're
city
even
you live
advertising.
in. Yeah,
Like in the cities, I forget which team it was that tweeted out. I want to say it was Boston Uprising, or I'm trying to remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was Uprising, but they had their main roster and then the logo and then the date of their first game on a city billboard, and I was like, yes. Or it was either them or Dallas Fuel. I forget which one it was. I know it was between those two. But like seeing that picture, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting hyped. I can't wait for this season. I can't wait to see what gets shown." And the fact that some of these teams are doing like big time advertisement in the middle of the cities, trying to get people to watch and everything. I can't wait, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
it is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be interested to see how successful this is, and then if we start seeing other esports in the U.S. try to take the same approach as
Right.
far as doing all lands, region locking teams pretty much, as opposed to just having phase. Maybe we'll have like LA phase or something like that.
Oh, it's gonna
I
be.
think,
Dude, I'm so excited.
yeah, I just really wish Nashville would jump on board and get a team so that we could, in 2019, just be able to go downtown and catch some matches live. Do
Right.
some coverage, to do some kind of live coverage would be
Well, I wonder
pretty
like
fun.
who would own the Nashville team, because you'd have to. I don't want to say like Nashville is the most technological advanced city or popular city for the younger age group. I want to say, as far as like these esports players. So I don't like. I mean, you could say maybe the Titans owner. I forget her name, but
Yeah, I don't
I
see
don't.
Amy
I don't
Adams
see
Strunk
her.
buying into
Yeah.
video gaming.
So I don't know who it would be. It would have to be some sort of country star maybe, or some big name musician who's kind of into it. Be like, oh, Nashville be a fun scene to do it in. But I don't know. You'd have to test the water somehow first before you make a $20 million commitment.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see. Now, what could we expect? Well, what can the listeners expect for coverage for this? I know I will be rotating in and out when available, and I think it'll just mostly be you, right, for
Yeah,
this
it'll
podcast.
this podcast in particular will be me. Days you can get in, you're more than welcome to come on. If we have anybody that listens that would be interested, they can follow and tweet at us. And I mean, I'd be more than happy to have another guest on.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean,
just to get on and talk. It's going to be fun. I think we're going to be fun. I think we're going to have some good fans watching the league. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't wait. And you better believe if you follow me on Twitter, you'll be seeing a bunch of Valiant and Uprising stuff going on, especially when any of those teams play the Outlaws, which is JT's team. It's there will be some trash talking because there's generally some trash talking between the Steelers and the Titans whenever we play.
yeah, that's true.
I can't wait, man. So there'll just be a bunch of like who won the week and
Yep.
kind of stuff like that, like
Well,
esports analyst a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
what we're gonna do once the matches actually start up is we're gonna upload every Monday recapping the last week's games, the last week's matches. Talk about who won, who lost, who's looking good, who seems to be struggling. Just following any kind of storylines we get throughout. We may bring in as time goes on some kind of like ass hat of the week or something like that, where
right.
we go over who's acting a fool on Twitter or something like that. May bring out may I'm thinking about bringing in like roast of the week between the teams because I've seen some pretty
No, their
hilarious
Twitters are
roasts
great.
between the different Twitter accounts. That's the one thing I got to say about Houston is Houston's not really been real active on their Twitter. I saw London Spitfire and the Gladiators were going back and forth today, and I've seen I can't remember which team it was. One team, I almost swear they hired the Wendy's Twitter person because they're just going insane on anybody they can.
And I think that's going to bring in fans anyways. If you see your favorite team's Twitter handling situations like that, you're going to bring in more people because I mean, one, it's funny, and humor brings in a lot of fans. Like I know the LA Valiant, their Twitter is a bunch of like I follow them on Snapchat as well. But like their Twitters are more of like they have a bunch of fan art that people draw for them and their roster people, and it's pretty cool. But I mean, fan art's not really my thing. I would love to see like updates of what's going on. Like their Snapchat is not really active. I'm actually gonna double check right now. It's not really active until like their games and stuff like that. So I'm like, I would like to see more Snapchat stuff,
Yeah,
especially because that appeases to this generation more than anything.
yeah. I've also noticed there's not really anyone updating too much on Instagram either. That's the platform I follow most everyone on, and um, I do know Houston has their own. I mean, obviously Houston though being optic, they're real big into content anyways. So they're always going to be a good source to get content from on YouTube as far as behind the scenes stuff and everything. I really wish we would see more teams doing that. Like Optic Gaming's Vision series is
Oh, their
awesome.
YouTube channel.
Yes, and then they actually started a Houston YouTube channel, and they're doing something similar to Vision, except it's called Focus, and it's kind of the same premise as Vision. Which Vision is just it was started out as kind of behind the scenes following their professional teams on their paths to championships and whatnot,
Yeah,
and just
didn't one of
updates.
the like the videographers or the photographer just win? He just won an esports award this
Yeah,
year.
for videographer of the year.
Yeah, and that's no. Is he the one that did the vision you're talking about?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
the head
awesome.
producer of it, and he does
See,
all the filming and interviewing and stuff for that. And but anyway, so Houston, the Outlaws, they've started something called Focus, which is the
mm,
same premise, just focused on the Houston Outlaws though. So I'm really enjoying that series. I wish we would see more teams kind of jump into that content side
yeah,
and
because
just get you a behind the scenes
that would be
look at what.
awesome.
Yes,
Seeing like the team connect and not so much like a reality TV show, but like you see how many times you get to see practices of like NFL teams, MLB teams, like that would be kind of fun, like to see the room they practice in, where they're staying at, like then their digs and stuff like that, and see what like their daily routine is, and like their thoughts after matches, before matches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was one team, it might have been Valiant, that they had a little series from the preseason matches. They had the owner or manager sitting behind the scenes watching everything, and he can hear what they were saying in the headset on his headset. And like when the matches would end, he was able to chime in and be like, "Hey, this is what y'all are doing really well. We need to tone it back here, do this, this, and this." It was like a 5-minute video, and I was like,
Oh wow,
"See, I
that's
would
pretty
love
cool.
to watch. Like that's pretty much what Focus is. It's just I would love to see that kind of interactions between the teams and stuff like that."
Yeah, I just wish they would bring it more out because especially with the leagues aren't real popular yet. I mean they're popular amongst the people who enjoy them, but as far as mainstream following, they're not. And I think doing stuff like that would help bring people in because you would see that these aren't kids that are just living in mom and dad's basement
Yeah,
doing playing video games. These are
these are
professionals.
professionals.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're professionals. They're carrying themselves as professionals. Yeah, they're goofing off and whatnot,
I mean, they're
but
younger. They're
yeah, they're
younger
younger.
kids.
They're younger kids, and I mean, they're working to get sponsorships the same way as athletes do. I mean, you
And that's
had
like some of the
you.
crazy things that like a lot of these people make more money than the ones that are making fun of these kids for like, oh, you're a professional gamer. I'm like, dude, they make more money than you do.
Absolutely. I mean, how else can you have someone who's able to stay home and stream at full time or anything? There's money to be made. It's just you got to be entertaining
Yep.
and treat it like a job. I mean, you can't. That's basically what it comes down to. Yeah, they're playing a video game, but it's being treated as if it's a job.
Right. And like if they do like a generic playoffs and championships, I think it'd be fun to have me and you over at the house and streaming it like on our like a maybe like a Nerdwide Twitch or Nerdwide YouTube and stream and watch it, and our viewers and listeners could watch it live with us.
Yeah, that may be something we look into doing. I think that would be pretty fun if we had the resources to do that.
Right. Trying to see all these gears are going in my head thinking about stuff like that. I'm excited. So we can expect episodes every Monday. The season starts. This will be
This one's
uploaded
Wednesday, I
Monday.
believe.
So like
Yeah, this will be uploaded. Yeah, 2 days from now as the season starts. Then.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. Oh, can you imagine? All right. You have anything else you want to talk about before the season starts, or I feel
Yeah,
like
no,
we covered the majority of everything there.
I think we've covered a majority of everything. I'm gonna try to do some write ups each night because they play matches like 3 or 4 nights a week,
Right.
and it's 3 matches a night. So I'm gonna try to do articles breaking down that day's matches, and those will come up the day after. I'm hoping. Don't hold me to that yet.
Right.
But we'll just focus on getting the podcast. But as I get more time on my hands, I'm gonna also do daily write ups on breaking down the matches and who won, who lost, and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Too.
Oh, I can't wait, man.
And you'll be able to find all of that at nerdwide.com.
Atta boy, look at you. All right, give them the outro, and we'll sign off, and we'll come back next week.
All right, yeah, guys, make sure if you enjoyed us, rate this on iTunes. If you didn't enjoy it, don't bother because that's not going to help us. If you also enjoyed us, share it on your favorite social media platform. You can follow us on Twitter at nerd_wide, or you can follow me at Justin C. Taylor 92, and you can follow Tyler at Ty_Haines, HAINES.
Atta boy.
And as always, I'm your host, JT, with the okayest boss in the world, Tyler Haines. We hope you enjoy this first week of OWL, and we'll see you next Monday.
Have a good one, everybody. Get ready. It's gonna get hype.
Pew, 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 pew.